ve bundan sonra da izleyebilmek adına yayınımızı kaydediyoruz.
Süper.
Sözü tekrar sana vereyim. Desire'ye
Tamam.
teşekkür ederken.
Bugün Desire Kenan Canbaz bizimle birlikte ve konuşmacımızın bizlere akmasına yardım edecek onun konuşmalarını aslında bize dokunmasına, yüreğimize, aklımıza işlemesine yardım edecek. O yüzden ona çok, çok büyük bir teşekkür gerçekten. Bundan önceki çevirilerinde de gerçekten harika bir iş çıkardı. Çok enerjik, çok böyle bizi yolda tutan bir çevirmen kendisi. Teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you, Desiree. Without you, I'm worthless.
Yavaş yavaş başlamadan önce ben katılımcılarımıza da sormak istiyorum. Koçlukta öz liderlik deyince aklınızda neler geliyor, size neleri çağrıştırıyor? Bu kısmına ilgili chat kısmına, sohbet kısmına notlarınızı bırakırsanız seviniriz. Aynı zamanda süreç devam ederken etkileşim olsun istiyoruz. Dolayısıyla sorularınızı soru cevap bölümüne yazarsanız daha kolay takip edebiliriz. Biz de size ses olmaya çalışacağız Esra ile birlikte bugün. Ve Daniel'ı tanımadan önce Esra'ya yine sözü bırakıyorum.
Harika. Bir sürü yerden gelen kişiler var. Onlara herkese hoş geldin tekrar. Tam da Serdar'ın bıraktığı yerden aslında soruyu tekrarlayalım. Koçlukta öz liderlik deyince hangi duygu, hangi düşünce yukarıya doğru çıkıyor sizde? Bizle paylaşırsanız çok seviniriz. Koç'un kendine yaptığı liderlik dedi bir katılımcımız. Bir başkası kendini yönetmek, duygularını yönetmek dedi. Çok güzel. Var mı başka?
Bugün buradan neyle ayrılmak istiyorsunuz? Onları da alabiliriz.
Öz liderlik, öz farkındalık, öz yönetim. Ankara'dan katılan bir katılımcımız, Koç'un liderliğinin özünde yatan düşünce, duygu ve neye benzer demiş. Sevgili MCC Koç'umuzdan gelmiş. İsmini söylemiyoruz KVKK nedeniyle. Koç kalabilmek adına kendini yönetmek. Çok güzel, çok sevdim. Öz liderlik bana kendime de objektif bakıp duygu, düşüncelerimin farkında olarak yönetilmesi gibi geliyor. Birazcık hızlı okumuş olabilirim. O yüzden tercümanımızdan özür diliyorum. Buradan aksiyon önerileri ile ayrılmak isterim diye yazmış. Çok güzel. Sizden duymak çok güzel. Sizle temasta olmak çok güzel gerçekten. O yüzden sizde olanı bizle paylaştığınız için çok teşekkür ederiz. Ve
Great to be here. It is it's great to be with you all, and as I listen to all of your thoughts and definitions of self-leadership, you're all spot on, my fellow coaches. So my hope is that in our conversation today, I am able to add some value, and that you're able to take away something that you can apply in your own life or as you work with your clients.
Daniel, ilk öncelikle tekrar çok teşekkür ederiz. ICF koçlarına, Türkiye'deki ICF koçlarına cömertçe zamanını, deneyimini paylaşacağın için, bunun için zaman ayırdığın için yüreğimiz minnettarlıkla dolu. Ve ayrıca seni tanımak istiyoruz ama tanırken de şunu aslında merak ediyoruz. Biyografini zaten okuduk. İnternette olan bilgilerimiz var. Biz şunu öğrenmek istiyoruz. Burada Daniel'in en yakın arkadaşı yanımızda olsaydı, Daniel'le ilgili bize nasıl tanıtırdı onu? Böyle birkaç şey söyleyebiliriz.
Well, my best friend is my wife, and she's right out there. I'm working out of the home office, so I could just have Sherry come in and she can tell you. But I think what she would say would be, I think she would say, well, we've been in one another's lives since we were 11 years old, and now we're grandparents, close to 60. And I think she would say that I see the best in people. She would say that I'm a little crazy. I love surfing. I love spending time with my kids and my grandbabies. I live out in the country, so I love being out in nature. So anytime I can be out in the forest or up on the mountains or in the ocean with my family or friends, that's great. And I actually love what I do. I started a coaching company 26 years ago, and it was just me 26 years ago. And within a year, I started hiring staff, and I started hiring other coaches. And today I lead Building Champions, which is our executive coaching organization. And then I started a not-for-profit to help young people with self-leadership and life planning. And I think Sherry, being my best friend, would say that I really love being able to serve in both of those areas. So.
Harika. Çok teşekkür ederiz paylaşımınız için. Serdar, ilk soruyu sen yöneltmek ister misin?
Hay, tabii. Daniel, I would like to ask a simple question while starting. How do you define leadership and self-leadership?
Sure. The way that I view leadership is, I think that we're smart to understand that everything always begins with self-leadership. Self-leadership precedes team leadership, and team leadership precedes organizational leadership. And what I like to say is self-leadership precedes team effectiveness before organizational impact. So how I lead myself, it is a day in and day out area of focus. And how I lead myself is basically me wanting to be who I want to be in all areas of my life. Mm-hmm. Our teammates and those around us, they're making conscious and subconscious decisions about us based upon what they see and what they hear, and then what they feel, how we feel to them. And the way that I like to show it, and I'm going to share my screen. I didn't ask for permission. I want to share a little model that has to do with self-leadership and how I view it. And I think this will be relevant for you as coaches, because as I walk through it, I would challenge you or encourage you to be thinking about, all right, how am I doing in these areas? And then once you do that, be thinking about, how can this help my clients? So for me, I always want to be very well aware of how I feel. And the reason for that is that it's been said that we humans, we're not decision makers by logic. We're decision makers by feeling. We make decisions based upon how we feel. And then what we do is we use logic and reason to support those decisions that we make. So when we're working with leaders, we say there are two gears, and most people want to focus on that gray gear up on the top. And they want to focus on improving their actions. They want to improve their relationships with people so that they get better results in their business and in their life. And some coaches will just focus on those areas. And some of us people, what we'll do is we'll try to do different things, or we'll try to be nicer. We'll try to say different things with people, and we hope for different results. And the problem is transformation doesn't happen on the outer gear. Transformation happens on the inner gear. And that inner gear is the inside of us. And it all starts with our identity. That's at the very center of who we are. So who I believe myself to be, who I believe I am from an identity perspective, impacts how I think, what I believe, and then how I feel when I'm alone, which then impacts how I feel and how I engage with others. So identity, do I believe that I serve in a significant role? Do I know that I'm good enough? Do you know that you'll make mistakes and it's okay? It doesn't define you. Do you know that you're a human being, meaning it's not just about doing, it's about who you are? Do you know you can continue to learn and grow and improve? If all of these things from an identity perspective are okay, we live in this place of expectancy. We know that bad things happen in life, and we know there's pain and there's challenge and there's failure all around us. But we also know that there's beauty all around us. I like to keep a little kaleidoscope around me, one of those kaleidoscopes that you look through and you see all the different colors. And in who I believe I am, I see the dark colors and the challenges, but I see the bright and beautiful colors. And sometimes I have to choose to see more of the beautiful colors, especially over the last couple of years. So my identity, that's the center of this gear. And what I can do is I can feed my thinking. So with my thinking, I can listen to really intelligent people. I can read wonderful studies and research to help me to grow. And I can challenge my beliefs and my limiting beliefs. So often what holds us back isn't the beliefs of other people. It's the beliefs that we have, the limiting beliefs that we have inside. So as coaches, I'm always trying to find out what limits my clients. Why do they believe that? Why did they just say that? Why do they not think they can do that? I want to understand their believing. I want to understand what they're doing and their thinking, and I want to understand how they feel. So that inner gear is something that I'm very aware of with myself, and then all of those that I coach. And I know that's a long answer, but I would ask you, as coaches, do you know you are in a really significant role and you can make a huge difference? But if you only focus on that outer gear with your clients, transformation won't happen. The real work happens when you're challenging and encouraging and transferring hope and belief into your clients, and you're challenging them and causing them to think better and to challenge their thinking. And then you're keenly aware of how they feel. And that's important, because how they feel when they're alone impacts how they feel when they're with their teams and with their organization. So I'll stop on that. I could go on this forever, but I'll stop and we'll change direction.
I enjoyed a lot. I should say that there was a part that Desiree followed from the net, but she's here. I was trying to tell you a little bit. I think our maybe participants maybe lost a little bit, maybe not too sure. But Türkçe'ye geçeceğim. Özellikle şeyi çok sevdim. Yani hatalarımız bizi tanımlamaz aslında. Ve biz kimliğimizi, düşüncelerimizi besleyerek, duygularımızı besleyerek aslında inançlarımızı nereden kaynaklanıyor bakarak kimliğimizi oluşturursak hem kendimize hem de hizmet ettiğimiz koşuk alan kişilere aslında
you bet.
Evet ve esin verebiliriz daha iyi bir dünya için. Çok güzel, çok bayıldım gerçekten. Harika. İkinci soru.
My pleasure. Well, back to Serdar, the difference between self-leadership and leadership. There are so many examples of leaders who they were doing so very well in their careers, and then something happened and they crash. They're climbing and their effectiveness and their reputation grows. And then something happens to where the organization starts to suffer and that leader no longer has a job. And for a guy who's been running a coaching company for 26 years with clients everywhere, we have clients from Europe to South Africa, throughout the States. What I've seen more often than not is when a leader fails, and it's a terminal failure, like they're not getting that job again. All right. 9 times out of 10, they didn't fail because they deployed a bad strategy. That's not what takes them out. They didn't fail because they're missing things in the workplace and they're making some bad decisions. Most of the terminal failures are as a result of how they led themselves, and they disqualify themselves. So Ezra, you showed the book Living Forward, and Living Forward is a framework that I've used with clients for 3 decades. And what I help clients to do, something that I do myself, and it's the core framework for the organization we're starting to help young adults set path. It's a framework to identify who you want to be in all areas of your life. And we call them accounts, like a bank account. You know, every month you get your statement if you have a bank account, and it says that you have more or less money than you had the month before. Well, I like to look at life that way. And I like to look at my marriage account. And I like to look at my health account. And I like to look at my family account. And then each one of my kids. And then my fun account and my professional account and my financial account. I have all these accounts. And what you do is you cast a vision for who you want to be as the steward, the one who has control over how you influence and impact those accounts. And once you have a vision for where you want to be and who you want to be in all of those areas, and then you identify your purpose, what's your unique purpose or role you play, then you create some specific steps that will enable you to increase net worth, increase the value of all those accounts. And then those specific actions make it to your calendar. And then you just do them and do them and do them over and over and over again. And what that becomes is it becomes your way of living. And then something happens, a curveball, something unexpected happens, you adjust that account and you respond to it. Now, that model helps you to lead yourself. And connecting this to leaders who are climbing and then they fail, so often leaders will put all of their energy into their career or into their money making. They neglect the other accounts. So they neglect their health. They neglect their faith. They neglect their spouse or their family or their friends. And then they wind up one day bankrupt in areas that truly bring a lot of happiness and joy. And nobody wants to follow a leader that's bankrupt, nobody. So they sit there and go, yeah, it's really neat that you led this big organization for all these years, but your life, who wants that? I don't want that life. I'm not going to follow you. They make conscious and subconscious decisions about following you and engaging with you. So how we lead ourselves, back to people and actions. Well, those people and actions, that outer gear is impacted by that inner gear. So that book, it's a proven model, which hundreds of thousands of people have gone through now around the world to just build a plan for self-leadership. So Serdar, I see it as having the ability to be present and with you when I'm with you. And then filling my days with interactions and actions that are really important to me because I want to serve and I want to make a difference wherever I'm at. And I don't want to get stuck in the drift to where all of a sudden I wake up and here we are, it's June, and I've completely missed the mark for half the year because I've just been responding. I'd rather be proactive and intentional. That's self-leadership.
Çok teşekkürler Daniel. Aslında kitabında da bahsettiğin ilk baştaki hayat planı, life plan dediğin kısmı uygulamaya koymak ve onu sadece iş hayatında bırakmamak, bütün hayata, bütün hesaplarına ulaşmak anlatıyorsun diye özetleyebilir miyiz?
Absolutely right. Because the way I see it is our vocation, our career is just one account. And we have to understand that we're these dimensional human beings, multidimensional. So yes, I am a CEO. And yes, I'm a coach. But I'm a husband, and I'm a father, and I'm a grandfather, and I'm a surfer, and I like to give. So I try to be charitable. I'm a brother and a son and a community member. So there are all these accounts that are really important to me. And who do I want to be, and what's my plan to be who I want to be in all these areas? Then when I get to my business and I'm in that business account, well, then you open that up, and then all of a sudden you'll see, which is this book, you'll see how I lead the business, which is I understand current reality. I understand long-term vision. I focus on placing strategic bets. I'm intentionally curious in all of these. I have the perspective of my team, my customers, my role always changing. And then I surround myself with you. So the seventh perspective, this book is great for us coaches. And here's why. The seventh perspective, I say that great leaders surround themselves with the perspective of outsiders. Those that are not inside the business, they're outside the business, but they have the expertise to help you to make sense of the first six perspectives. Those are coaches. So the seventh perspective is all about coaches and board members and mentors. So, back to your question, Cedar, and making sure that you see life planning right. Life planning is how I lead my life, and my business is a part of it. I spend more time doing that than I do anything else. But then once I get into my business, well, then the life plan is over here. And what I say is I'm going to give my devoted hours to be the best I can be in my career in both companies. But then this unpacks how I go about it as a leader for my professional account.
Teşekkürler.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for
my pleasure.
Treasure you're sharing with us. My question is, what does it look like for the coach to do self-leadership while in the moment coaching?
So for me, great question. For me, it always starts in the morning. So in the morning, I like to spend a good 90 minutes just getting myself ready before I engage with the outside world. And I would say your first 90 minutes, your first 60 to 90 minutes will set the trajectory of your day. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to exercise. Some people like to pray. Some people like to go for a walk. What is it that you can do that just causes you to understand that today's a gift? You have a significant role to play. You put good stuff into your head. You're good thinking. You don't wake up to this. You don't wake up to Facebook and the news and all of the social media that tells you that you're not good enough. The world's falling apart and you can never compete with him or her. Like if this is your first 60 minutes, you're ruined. So what you do is you spend your first 60 to 90 minutes working on your own overall health so that you're armored up, you're battle ready. You think through all of your engagements. I know that I'm with you this morning, incredibly important for me. When I'm done with you, then I'm with the CEO of a company and his executive team, and we're planning out a retreat. And I know exactly how I want that to end. And then I'm with an accounting firm working on some stuff for the inside of the business. And then I'm with my content partner and we're working on an event we're doing next month. And then I do a fundraiser tonight. That's my day. So early this morning, I'm up, I'm putting good stuff into my mind, and I'm thinking about each and every one of those, and I'm understanding my role. And every morning, as I'm going through my routine, I want to be used to flip light switches up on people's hearts. That's what a coach does. A coach moves people from this place to a better place. That's what a good coach does. A good coach takes people from where they're at to a better place. They serve as a vehicle to help them. So for me, that morning routine and making sure I'm really clear on what is happening in the day and who I need to be, then what it does is it enables me to be right here and I'm focused on you. I'm not sitting here wondering, oh, what's my next thing? I'm prepared. I know how to win with you. And then I know how to win with my next group of clients. and then the accounting firm, and then my content partner. I've thought through that. And I've orchestrated my day to where that's what I get to do. So sometimes people just wake up and, they drink their coffee and they rush, and they're reading, they're looking here and they're all behind. And then they show up and they try to be present and they can't. They say the number one way that you show somebody that you care about them is by how you listen to them. If you're distracted, people will be saying things, they'll be insinuating things, your clients will, and you won't pick up on the thought behind the comment. So you won't ask the next big question. As a coach, our greatest tool is the questions we ask and then how we listen. There's a gentleman who won a Nobel Peace Prize. His name was Najib Buz. And he said, you can tell a man is wise, man or woman. You can tell a man is wise, not by the answers he gives, but by the questions he asks. Coaches, you need to be ready. You need to be ready and crystal clear when you're with a client. You're so present that you're able to ask the questions that nobody else asks, that causes the client to say, "What? I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about the situation that way. I don't know. I'm going to need to give that some more thought. What do you suggest?" You need to be able to ask those questions, but that requires, in this crazy busy world we live in, we have to be very well prepared, which starts in the morning, so that when we show up, we're right here. We're right here.
That's great. So we need to prepare, and we need to be crystal clear when we arrive and when we present, because they deserve that. Yes. And I thank you very much. Serdar, would you like to continue, or we can't hear you now?
Yes, I have one more question about the preparation for this process. Actually, Daniel, while you are talking related with this, I would like to understand if there is a challenge while improving self-leadership for coaches.
So is there a challenge for coaches with improving their
self-leadership?
Well, I think the challenge for all of us is there's just so much coming our way. Mm-hmm. I like to read books on many different topics, and one book that has been, all right, 2 books, 3 books, hang tight.
Birazdan 4 olabilir.
Kitaplar bugün gerçekten.
This is my current read list. This is what I'm going through. But this book is Your Body Keeps the Score. And this book is about the brain, the mind, and your body in the healing of trauma. The last few years of the pandemic have caused many people to lose their way, and they've experienced trauma. And how does that impact thinking and health? So, Serdar, you ask, what's the challenge for us? If we ourselves aren't dealing with trauma, we're surrounded by people who have gone through some significant challenges. And 20 years ago, the only way I would have known of all of the awful atrocities that are happening around the world would have been, I would have picked up a newspaper in the morning and I would have read it, and I would have had maybe 10 choices. I could read the Wall Street Journal here in the States. I could read the New York Times or the Los Angeles Times, or, now I'm in Portland, Oregon. I could have, there would have been a stack of different newspapers this big. Or 20 years ago, at 5 o'clock at night, or at 6 or at 7, I could have turned the TV on and I could have watched the news. But I couldn't have done that at 1 in the afternoon or 2 in the afternoon. The news wasn't on. Today, we and our kids, they wake up to this. And instead of 40 years ago, there were 2 sources of news. And then 20 years ago, there were 11 sources of news for us. Now today, everybody's news. Anybody can post anything. So Cedar, your question, what's the challenge? The challenge is how to shut the noise out and how to focus on what matters most so that you're healthy and so that you're present. And that's the challenge, because it's so easy for us to just drift off into areas that we cannot control. So coaches, think about this. When you're working with your clients and yourself, I have a very good friend, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Henry Cloud, phenomenal executive coach, prolific author. He's written so many books, Boundaries. They're probably all in Turkey. But Henry, I was working with Henry a while back, and one of the things he shared was that he always gets clients to focus on three buckets. What you're looking at, bucket number 1 is, what can you control? Bucket number 2 is, what can you influence? And bucket number 3 is, what do you have no control over? You just have to accept it. You have no control. All right. There's so many things happening in the world that we spend a ton of time looking at that are bucket number 3, no control. So what they do is they make you feel awful. So if you're spending too much time focusing on what you can't control, you will not be the best you can be. So instead, you spend energy focusing on what you can control and who you can influence. And you spend more time there. So instead of watching the news, or instead of being on social media, I can control what I read. And then as I read, I learn. I can spend time with people I love. I can influence. I spend time with people who are in leadership roles. I can influence. Then they can go out and influence. Mm-hmm. So it's this lifelong journey of making decisions where you say no to really good things so that you have space and time to say yes to the really great things. It's not the challenge, Cedar, isn't, how do I stop doing really awful things? Most coaches aren't doing a ton of really awful things. Most of you aren't robbing banks. Some of you might be, that's not good. But, it's not a matter of, oh, I need to stop doing these bad things. It's more of, I need to say no to good things because I'm missing the opportunity for great things. And I need to say no, clear up space, energy, so I can devote more time to the great.
Thank you.
Very inspiring, I guess. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yes, we need to say no to good things, and so we can catch the great things and we can say yes to them. That's awesome. My other question is, how can we lead ourselves in our bodies, in our emotions, our values, our actions or words, even like the book you showed us? Maybe how can we lead ourselves in our traumas so we can be familiar with ourselves before we serve?
So the way the brain works, and I'm sure many of you know this, our executive functions, we can transform if we focus on what matters most, and then we inhibit the noise, but we need a system for working memory. So in that book, in Living Forward, if you build your life plan and then you have it in writing, what you do is you review it and you read it every morning for 90 days, focusing on what matters most. This is your plan for your life. You read it every morning for 90 days, and then you read it every week for the rest of your life, reminding yourself, this is who I want to be. This is who I want to be so that I can do what I want to do. So if you stop reminding yourself, what'll happen is you'll drift as an emotional being to the other things. So one of the greatest misses for many of us is that we know we should be doing certain things, but we just don't do them. Like many folks want to improve their health. They know they should eat better, but then they drive through, here and probably there too, McDonald's. Not judging, it's just not going to lead to great health. So, we do things we know we shouldn't do. So we have to remind ourselves of what matters most, and that's that daily review. That will help.
So you talk about feeling thinking. Right now, how should it be? Any advice or encouragement not to do those things other than 90 days?
Well, I don't know. I think all of us have such different scenarios and situations and life stories. Some of the folks that are listening to us right now, they may have some real challenges at home. Some may be newer in their coaching practice and they're worried about, where's the next paycheck coming from? Others may have clients that are in trouble and they're worried about, do I really know how to help them? And then some have just significant personal challenges where they have relationships in trouble or kids they're worried about or marriage challenges or heartbreak, grief, right? So I think, I think the first thing is, for everybody to, in today's times in particular, is to just step back and be kind to yourself and to have some sort of a deep level of faith in knowing that you can affect a better tomorrow. But for some of us, it's hard to believe depending upon the pain or the challenge that we're in. So that's why it's so important for us to put good stuff into our mind and to surround ourselves with people that lift us up. And I would say, Sadar, one of the best things that we can do is we can look for somebody to go help. Sometimes you may not have the energy to do so, but I have often found that some of the best experiences in my life have to do when I will do something. And in the moment, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be really hard and this is going to cost. I'm going to go serve or I'm going to give. And then I come away just so grateful, so blessed. We've gone down to a very impoverished part of Mexico when the kids were young. And we would always go down there over Thanksgiving and a holiday that we would celebrate here, to where we were thankful for the establishment of the country and for it being founded and all. And what we would do is we would go down to Mexico and we would build homes for free for people that lived in a very impoverished part of Tijuana. And we'd work so hard, long days. Some of us would get food poisoning. We would sweat. It would be hard, building homes and recreation centers. We did it every year with the kids. And the kids, they will all tell you those were the best vacations, but they weren't vacations. And the kids were spoiled. I mean, we had opportunities to travel because of my work. everywhere in the world and speak everywhere. But the kids would always say their fondest memories were going and serving. And it's true. When you get to go serve another human, that's when good things happen. So, you know, I don't know if I answer your question. That's the best I got.
Thanks a lot.
That's really, really inspiring. Serving as a family, actually, it could be more fun than other things like.
It's great.
It's creates a bonding. I think that's beautiful. And we have lots of questions from our participants. I would love to, I would love to bring those to you. And I will start one of the English one. Grant me this serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Actually, it's not a question.
It's a prayer. It's a really beautiful prayer. And that prayer, there was an organization started years and years ago to help people with addiction, you know, alcoholism. And over the last couple of years, alcohol intake has increased greatly around the world because we were just so disrupted with the measures put in place to deal with COVID. But that prayer is is it Dilek or Dilek?
Dilek, yes.
Dilek. What a great prayer. It's a great prayer and one that would help us all in the morning.
That's awesome. Evet, o zaman ben Türkçe okuyayım. Desire sen çevirebilir misin? Harika. Travmalarımız varken, çözememişken iyi bir koç olabilir miyiz?
We can, because none of us get to a place where we have it all put together. So I think we're all a work in progress. And I think one of the best things that we can do as coaches is we can be a bit vulnerable ourselves, but we don't want to disqualify ourselves. So you can still, while you're dealing with your own challenges, you can still show up and be completely present and give to another as a coach. But it depends on the depth of the trauma. So, you know, we had a few deaths last year, and one of them was incredibly traumatic. My wife and I have had numerous kids living in our home over the years. We've had 10 that have lived with us at different times. And one of them that was living with us last year, her younger brother took his life, and we were the first phone call, and it was an incredibly traumatic experience. They all moved in here, and anyways, that was so difficult that my ability to be present and to be a great coach wasn't there. I was just a wreck. So I think there can be some things you go through that, you might need to take some time off. And you might have to say, I can't go do those things right now. I need to work through my own pain. But then there can be challenges where, you know, they're not that deep, they're not that painful, and you can show up and still do well. I believe that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, it was tough. Yeah. It was yuck.
Sorry for that loss.
Yeah, thank you.
Transparency.
We move forward and we try to help people. Yeah, it's a crazy thing in the States. It's a crazy thing. You know, it's worse in the United States than it is anywhere else in the world, this whole thing of suicide. You know, a country that has so much good and so much wealth and so much, people aren't happy. So it's a sad thing.
You're a great example for us, so we can actually be transparent, and we can actually share about the hard things and hurtful things in our life. Yeah. So thank you.
My pleasure.
The next question, Serdar, would you like to go?
One more question from our participants. How can a leader build a bridge between self-leadership and sharpening the soul? What is this relationship? Is it related with the accounts you mentioned recently?
Yeah, did you say sharpening the soul?
Soul.
SAW, it's right.
Oh, sharpening the saw, yes. Well, so I believe that, all of us have room to grow. So oftentimes what we need to have ourselves is somebody who will coach us, somebody we can be open with. I have always really done my best to let people in and let them know what I'm dealing with, whether it be my own insecurities, my doubts. It's funny when you lead a team, and I don't know how many of the coaches here have their organization is themselves, or whether they have, people working with them. But for me, having a team, I like my team to know what I'm dealing with, and I want them to know what causes me to stumble or to fail. And then I ask for help. So I have a board of advisors. If you look at the Building Champions website, the CEO mentors, they're all very seasoned leaders. They're my advisory board. And I've let them in. I let them know about my retirement desires, my succession, and how I want to expand the company. They see vision. They understand my personal finances, my family tensions, what my aspirations are. They know. And then I meet with them. And there's always one in particular. So I had one who was the chairman, and he really poured into me. He's 20 years older than I am today. That has now been passed on to the next CEO mentor, Gavin. So it went from Garrett to Gavin, and Gavin's just a little older than me. And I just trust these individuals to ask me and to help me to be aware of where I can grow so that I can be sharpened. Another thing, I'm always looking to grow. So I was with a business associate last week, and he gave me this book, Amplify Your Influence by Renee Rodriguez. And Renee was a associate and client of ours years ago, and now he's helping people to communicate. And I was having coffee with this mutual friend when he gave me Renee's book, and he said, Renee does these great workshops for people who want to improve how they communicate. And I said, well, I'm going to sign up. I want to go. And my buddy Dave was like, you want to go? I said, yes, I want to improve how I communicate because I'm not good enough yet. I can improve. I can improve in my storytelling. I can improve in the clarity of communication and engagement. So, pick the areas that you want to grow in, and allow others to speak to you and to sharpen you and to maybe direct you as to where you can improve.
Süper. Yeni bir Türkçe soruyla geliyorum. Çok sevdim bu soruyu. Siz kendi en iyi versiyonunuzu tamamlarken işte budur dediğiniz o kırılma anı neydi?
It's always evolving. Like I see opportunity as I continue to go through life. I like to, at the end of every year, I like to take a day and a half or maybe 2 days and just do some reflection. And I look at my life plan, I do some journaling, and I try to capture big themes, big lessons for the year. And I can remember them from my 30s and my 40s, and definitely remember them now in my 50s. But I like to connect those big themes and then to create a new vision for what's possible. So if you were to look at how I grew up fighting a lot because there was just challenge around me. And that's a whole nother story. But I did not have great belief about who I would become. Others saw something good in me and they challenged me. Somebody else saw good in me and they transferred hope and belief into me. Belief that I didn't have. And there were a few people that did that. So that's probably one of the big reasons why I started a coaching company, because you look at what we do. Oftentimes our job is just to listen and to transfer hope and belief and affirmation into the lives of others. And then you look at the multiplication. If you're working with a leader, and if the leader has 10 people, well, then by you impacting one leader, you can impact 10 people. Last Friday, sitting right outside in my outdoor, I've got an outdoor living area over here. Last Friday was the chairman of a very large global company from Germany. He was here in the States, and I work with him between here and in Europe, and we go everywhere with his executive team. But he was here for a half a day, and we were just one-on-one coaching. He has 126,000 employees, 126,000. So as a coach, I think, man, if I can help him to improve his thinking, his belief, and his feeling, which then impacts his actions, his relationships, the results he can get as he moves through a room and communicates with his executive team. And then there's 12 leaders under him. And then as they work in Europe, in Mexico, in Brazil, in the States, they go out and they work with their 12 and they work with their 20. You can, that's how you change the world. That's what you get to do. One leader, whether that one leader has a team of 3 or 126,000 around the world, it's a pretty big deal. So I went on a whole little rant there, and I don't even remember what the question was. Sorry.
Somebody says ripple effect.
That's right.
So I think question was there a moment?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I am one who believes we can do a whole bunch of good. And in that book that you held up, Ezra, Becoming a Coaching Leader, I wrote that like 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. And in there, I tell a story of how I was in my 20s. And I was in sales. I was in mortgage banking. I would help people get their loan to buy a house. Mm-hmm. And I was 20, 21 years old, 22. And I would challenge myself every day to go call on the most successful real estate agents and financial planners, those that would never see a punk 22-year-old young man. They would never respect me. What do I know? I'm a kid. They were 40, 50 years old, incredibly successful, driving big Mercedes-Benz and having a team and dressed all sharp. I would dress very sharp. I would buy the nicest suits. And I even bought a car that was way adult and not, I was used to driving a Volkswagen bus like this back here. This is a Volkswagen bus right here. These are all my surfing friends. This is what I was used to. And I went and I bought a brand new turbo Thunderbird red. Yeah, that was crazy. But in that book, what I talk about every day was, it wasn't a good day if I didn't make my hands sweat. Sweaty palms, you get nervous. I had to push myself every day. Put yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. All that can happen is people say no. Like nobody hits you. And you're not gonna lose a limb. So I would just take the risk. And what happens is the first time they say no, and then the second time they say no. And hey, coaches, this has to do with you building your practice. And then somebody else says no. And then somebody says no. And you're saying, why are they saying no? What do I need to change? And then all of a sudden somebody says, yes, I'll give you a chance. And then you do well. And then your belief changes. It's like, I can do this. And then you do it again. And they say yes and yes. And the no's just lead to yeses. And you just realize that. So, an interesting thing about coaching, when I started the coaching company in 1996, I was 31 years old. And I like to tell people at the age of 31, when I started this executive coaching and leadership development company, I started it as Daniel S. Harkavy, Inc. And then I changed it. Like within months, I said, that's a bad name because then everyone will be relying on me. I want to build an organization where I have coaches. So I changed it to Building Champions. And a champion is a winner, but a champion is also one who advocates for a cause. And I wanted to build these types of leaders that cared for the whole human, because I believe better humans make for better leaders. So when I started it, I thought it would work. I thought it would work. And then after years went by and I started to see results, then I knew it worked. And then when I went from, I think this works, to seeing results and people doing the analytics to show improvement, all right, I know this works. And then a decade later, I went to, I absolutely believe this works and I'm convicted by it. And this is the way we do business. And if you want to change and you want to do business with us, fantastic. And if not, that's okay. But if you work with me and you work with us, you're going to get results. And I believe it with all my heart. And if you want something different, if you don't resonate with better humans make for better leaders, and that's not your belief, just go work with somebody else. This is my way and our way. This is the way we do it. So after 26 years, I'm not hoping people will do business with us. What I'm looking for are the right people, and I want to choose them. But you have to put in the hard work. You have to make the palms sweat. You have to get the rejections and the no's. Unfortunately, folks, I've got to jump to my next engagement here, I believe. Let me just look at the clock real quick.
Çok teşekkür ederiz Daniel'e. Bütün paylaştıkları için ve herkese katıldıkları için de çok teşekkür ederiz. Gerçekten o ellerimizin her birimizin nasıl terliyor, her birimizin farklı olabilir ama harika zenginlik yaşadık Daniel aracılığıyla. Çok çok teşekkür ediyorum ve tam sorularını soramadığımız herkes için de özür diliyorum. Ve ne diyelim, umarız ki tekrar görüşürüz Daniel'le.
Bir araya geliriz.
That would be great.
Tamam. O zaman Daniel'i daha fazla tutmayalım. Sizler de aklınızdaki, yüreklerinizdeki şeyleri paylaşabilirsiniz alta. Desire'ye de çok teşekkür ederiz. Harika üstün tercümesi için. Daniel, giderken söylemek istediğin bir şey var mıdır?
Yeah, I would just say the work you've chosen is really meaningful, and you can be used to make a great difference in the world. So continue to sharpen. I would also say, Ezra, lovely seeing you as always. Desiree, thank you so very much for making the communication possible. Seydar, great meeting you. Wonderful. I wish all of you great success and impact. Take care.
Çok teşekkür ederiz. Görüşmek üzere.
Bye bye.
İyi akşamlar diliyoruz herkese.
İyi akşamlar diliyoruz. Çarşamba akşamınızı bizimle geçirdiğiniz için ayrıca çok teşekkür ederiz. Tüm yorumlar ve sorular için de teşekkür ederiz. İyi ki varsınız. İyi ki birlikteyiz. İyi ki birlikte büyüyoruz. Öz liderlikte, koçlukta hep beraber ilerliyoruz olma halinde. İyi akşamlar diliyorum.
Dönüştüren koçluk hikayelerinde buluşmak üzere. İyi akşamlar.
Bye bye.